9 terrifying discoveries that even the bravest archaeologists couldn't explain. A mummy lay motionless for thousands of years, but when archaeologists opened the coffin, they were instantly chilled to the bone because what they found inside was nothing like what they had imagined. A ghost ship carrying 40 tons of treasure mysteriously vanished in the 16th century, then suddenly reappeared on the ocean floor nearly 500 years later. A strange city, located 2,300 feet beneath the Atlantic Ocean, has continued to live for more than 120,000 years without any sunlight. A bronze cauldron discovered inside an ancient Chinese tomb contained pieces of beef that had survived for more than 2,000 years, leaving scientists unable to fully explain how it was possible. And even more terrifying, there were ancient human species that once lived alongside our ancestors, only to vanish without a trace as if they had never existed on this earth at all. Just think about it for a moment. How many secrets of history are still buried beneath the ground, hidden under the ocean floor, or locked away inside ancient tombs that have never been opened? And could there be truths that even modern science is still incapable of explaining? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Ancient History channel. In today's video, we're going to explore 9 of the most mysterious and horrifying discoveries that have ever shocked the world of archaeology. From terrifying mummies and ancient artifacts whose purposes remain unknown, to lost cities and ruins that completely challenge humanity's understanding of ancient history. What makes these discoveries even more unsettling is that many of them still have no clear explanation to this day. And the deeper scientists investigate, the more they realize that human history may be far more complicated and mysterious than anything we were ever taught. So, are you ready to join me on today's journey? If you are, then let's begin with the very first mystery right now. 4,000-year-old mummy, hidden in an Egyptian cliff, stunned archaeologists. Among the barren mountain ranges along the Nile River in southern Egypt, once considered sacred land by the ancient pharaohs, a discovery was made that left even seasoned archaeologists breaking into a cold sweat when they saw it with their own eyes. It was not gold or treasure, nor a magnificent tomb like the ones described in legends, but a strange nearly 4,000-year-old mummy hidden inside a coffin suspended deep within a cliffside in the city of Aswan. The story began in 2019 during excavations at an ancient burial site in Aswan, the historic Egyptian city located along the Nile River. A team of archaeologists led by Martina Bartanova unexpectedly discovered a coffin that had never been opened before. What shocked the team was not only how perfectly preserved the coffin was, but also its location. It had been hidden deep inside a cliff, almost completely isolated from the outside world, as if the ancient Egyptians had intentionally concealed it to protect it from tomb robbers for thousands of years. At the time, Dr. Martina and a team of Spanish researchers were investigating the reign of Hatshepsut, the first woman to rule ancient Egypt, from 1479 to 1458 BC. None of them imagined that this expedition would lead to a mystery so exciting for experts who study ancient human remains. The excavation process was later filmed and broadcast by the British television program Secrets of Egypt's Valley of the Kings. But the most terrifying part was not what appeared on camera. It was the moment the team approached the burial site. At the time, a massive Sahara sandstorm was sweeping in from southern Egypt. The wind howled across the desert as thick clouds of sand swallowed the sky. The program's narrator even described how the short journey of only about 220 yards to reach the burial site became a real battle. The team had to crouch low and struggle step by step through the violent sandstorm just to reach the ancient tomb carved into the cliffside. Then came the most frightening moment of all. After hours of struggling, the researchers finally managed to remove the heavy clay coffin lid. As Dr. Martina slowly opened the coffin, she immediately shuddered. Inside was not the image of a carefully wrapped mummy like those commonly seen in movies about ancient Egypt. Instead, lying before them was a shriveled, distorted body covered in a strange black substance. The entire team fell silent for several seconds. Dr. Martina later recalled that the coffin looked absolutely terrifying. According to her, it did not truly resemble a traditional mummy because the body had not been carefully wrapped in bandages. It looked more as though the corpse had been hastily placed into the coffin rather than prepared through a complete ancient Egyptian burial ritual. Following the discovery, several experts were brought to the site to analyze the mysterious remains. Among them was Miguel Cecilio Botella Lopez, a renowned specialist in human skeletal research. As the black material was gradually removed, the team anxiously waited to uncover the true identity of the person who had rested inside the coffin for nearly 4 millennia. The results shocked everyone. Dr. Botella confirmed that the skeleton belonged to a woman, but the most astonishing detail was her age at the time of death, over 70 years old. Today, that might not sound unusual, but in ancient Egypt, it was almost unimaginable. Back then, average life expectancy was extremely low. Children often died from disease and infections. Those who survived childhood typically lived only to around 25 years old. Women faced especially high risks during childbirth, making long life even rarer. That is why the discovery of a woman who lived beyond the age of 70 in ancient Egypt left archaeologists utterly stunned. Dr. Martina admitted she was genuinely amazed that this woman had lived such a long life nearly 4,000 years ago. The discovery also raised a series of mysterious questions. Who was this woman? Why was she buried separately inside a cliff? Why was her body not mummified using traditional methods? And most importantly, how was she able to live so long during an era when even powerful pharaohs rarely reached such an age? Even Tutankhamun, one of the most famous rulers of ancient Egypt, is believed to have died at only around 18 years old under mysterious circumstances. To this day, all of those questions remain unanswered. The more archaeologists study this coffin, the more it feels like a missing piece of ancient Egyptian history. A secret buried in darkness for thousands of years until a Sahara sandstorm accidentally led modern humans directly to it. Pretty terrifying, isn't it? The mysterious skull boxes revealed 2 human species that once lived alongside the ancestors of modern humans. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when modern humans, Homo sapiens, were still struggling to survive across the frozen wilderness of prehistoric Earth, we were not alone. Besides the famous Neanderthals who once dominated ancient Europe, scientists now believe that at least 2 other mysterious human species once existed. Ancient human relatives who may have hunted together, shared tools, passed knowledge to one another, and even had children with the ancestors of modern humans. The most chilling part is that for hundreds of thousands of years, they almost completely vanished from history, as if they had never existed at all, until ancient skulls were pulled from deep beneath the earth. The first story begins in the city of Harbin, Heilongjiang Province, in northeastern China. In 1933, while Chinese laborers were building a bridge over the Songhua River, they unexpectedly discovered a gigantic human skull buried deep beneath layers of ancient soil. At that time, however, the region was occupied by the Japanese military. Fearing that the valuable artifact would fall into Japanese hands, the workers secretly hid the skull inside an abandoned well, and there the secret remained buried for decades. It was not until 2018, shortly before his death, that one of the workers finally revealed the true location of the mysterious skull in his final testimony. When Chinese scientists finally brought it to light, the archaeological world was left stunned. It was one of the most complete ancient human skulls ever discovered anywhere on Earth. The research team, led by Professor Cheng Ji from Hebei Geo University, conducted a detailed analysis. The results showed that the skull was approximately 146,000 years old, but what shocked scientists most was its appearance. The face of this ancient being looked surprisingly similar to modern Homo sapiens, especially around the eye sockets and facial structure. However, it had almost no chin, while the skull itself was extremely large and displayed a mixture of traits from both modern humans and ancient Neanderthals. Researchers named this newly identified human species Homo longi, more famously known as Dragon Man. The name came not only from Heilongjiang Province, whose name translates roughly to Black Dragon River, but also from the enormous size of the skull itself. It is believed to be the largest human skull ever discovered within the entire Homo genus. What makes Homo longi even more fascinating is that it may have been more closely related to Homo sapiens than Neanderthals were. Scientists believe that interbreeding may have occurred between them. In other words, our ancestors may once have had children with an entirely different human species, but the mystery does not end there. Thousands of miles away from China, near the Nesher Ramla site close to the city of Ramla in central Israel, another discovery would once again force scientists to rewrite the history of human evolution. Beginning in 2010, archaeologists started uncovering strange fossil fragments at the site. At first, they appeared to be only scattered pieces of bone buried deep beneath ancient layers of rock and soil. But after years of research and the reconstruction of the skull using 3D technology, paleoanthropologists realized they were facing an entirely different type of human. Professor Israel Hershkovitz from Tel Aviv University stated that these fossil fragments dated back between 120,000 and 140,000 years. This mysterious species possessed a very rugged face, large teeth, and almost no chin. Their skull shared several similarities with Neanderthals, yet appeared far more primitive. As scientists continued comparing the remains, they discovered connections between these bones and several fossil discoveries that had puzzled researchers for years. These included 160,000-year-old remains from Tabun Cave, 250,000-year-old bones from Zutia Cave, and even 400,000-year-old specimens from Kizim Cave, all located within present-day Israel. This proved that they were not dealing with a single individual, but with an entire population of ancient humans that had lived throughout the Middle East for hundreds of thousands of years. They knew how to craft sharp stone tools and create primitive weapons that may have been the predecessors of spears and arrows. More importantly, scientists believe they shared these techniques with both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens living nearby. This suggests that hundreds of thousands of years ago, multiple human species may have existed side by side on the same land, hunting together, surviving together, and perhaps even forming families together. And evidence of that ancient connection may still exist within our bodies today. Studies suggest that during the period when Homo sapiens settled in the region of present-day Israel around 200,000 years ago, up until the mysterious Nesher Ramla humans became extinct, extensive interbreeding likely occurred. Some fossils that once confused scientists because they appeared partly Homo sapiens and partly something else are now believed to be hybrid descendants of our ancestors and this mysterious human species. The deeper scientists dig into the past, the more they realize that human evolution was far more complicated than we once imagined. The Homo genus once included countless different human species living across Earth, but over time, most of them disappeared from history. And in the end, only one remained: Homo sapiens, us. Isn't the story of human evolution fascinating? It continues to take us from one astonishing discovery to the next. The Royal Palace. Buried beneath Jerusalem for 3,000 years, the secrets of the kings of Judah slowly revealed as hidden deep beneath the ancient layers of stone and soil in the city of Jerusalem, a place that has witnessed bloody wars, legendary sieges, and the collapse of mighty empires. Archaeologists have recently uncovered the remains of a structure that has astonished the entire scientific community. It was not an ordinary temple, nor an ancient residential district, but the rare remains of a magnificent royal estate that once stood nearly 3,000 years ago. A grand royal palace once towered proudly with beautifully carved stone columns, luxurious door frames, and elegant balconies overlooking ancient Jerusalem. It is believed to have belonged to the most powerful elite of the ancient kingdom of Judah, a place where every inch of land carried thousands of years of history. But over time, everything disappeared completely from the world. Only silent stone fragments remained buried beneath the earth for millennia. This shocking discovery was announced by archaeologists following excavations in Jerusalem, the ancient city located in modern-day Israel in the Middle East. What they uncovered has revealed another piece of the mystery surrounding the First Temple period, an era lasting from around 1000 BC to 586 BC, considered one of the most important periods in the history of ancient Jerusalem. What especially excited researchers was the discovery of numerous finely carved artifacts made from soft limestone. These objects displayed the Proto-Aeolian architectural style, a design strongly associated with power and prestige during the reign of the kings of Judah. According to archaeologists, Proto-Aeolian architecture was not something found in ordinary buildings. It was typically used only in palaces, temples, or structures built for the highest ruling classes. In other words, this site may very well have been an actual royal palace. Among the discoveries, the most remarkable were the stone capitals that had remained almost perfectly preserved despite lying underground for thousands of years. The carved details on the stone are still astonishingly sharp, revealing the extraordinary craftsmanship of the ancient artisans who created them. Not only that, archaeologists also uncovered stone window frames and luxurious balustrades. features that in ancient times could only be afforded by royalty or the wealthy elite. Just imagine it. Nearly 3,000 years ago, in the dry lands of ancient Jerusalem, there existed a lavish structure so magnificent that it featured beautifully carved stone balconies overlooking the city itself. Doesn't that show just how wealthy and powerful the owner of this place must have been? Unfortunately, most of the structure no longer survives. According to researchers, the palace was most likely destroyed during the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC, one of the most catastrophic events in the history of ancient Judah. When the Babylonian forces invaded Jerusalem, they burned the city, destroyed many important structures, and plunged an entire civilization into a dark age. This royal palace was likely flattened during that disaster, leaving behind only scattered architectural fragments buried deep beneath layers of earth and stone for thousands of years. Until today. Another unfortunate reality is that archaeologists still cannot determine exactly who once lived inside this ancient estate. Some theories suggest it may have been the residence of a king from the ancient kingdom of Judah. Others believe it could have belonged to a powerful noble family that once controlled the Jerusalem region. But regardless of who the true owner was, the scale and sophistication of the structure are enough to amaze researchers. Scientists believe the bold architecture of this palace provides clear evidence that Jerusalem experienced a strong recovery after the devastating Assyrian siege in 701 BC. At that time, the city had stood on the brink of collapse, but after surviving the war, Jerusalem appears to have entered a new period of growth. People no longer lived confined behind defensive walls. Instead, they began expanding the city and constructing massive new buildings outside the protected areas. And this royal palace may have been a symbol of that rebirth, a surviving trace from an era when Jerusalem rose once again from the flames of war. A world of kings, ancient battles, and royal palaces that once stood proudly within human history before being buried forever by time. 8,000-year-old artifact found inside a giant alligator. Now, what if I told you that inside the stomach of an alligator nearly 13 feet long and weighing around 750 pounds, researchers discovered ancient Native American artifacts dating back thousands of years before Christ? Would you believe it? If you've never imagined something like that, or you simply don't believe what I just said, then come with me to Eagle Lake in the state of Mississippi, because this is where an American licensed alligator hunter named John Hamilton made an astonishing discovery. It all began when John Hamilton joined a special hunting trip in the Eagle Lake area. You see, for many people living in the southern United States, alligator hunting is nothing unusual. In several states, citizens aged 16 and older can legally apply for permits to own and hunt alligators under state regulations, and John Hamilton was one of those licensed hunters. But even for a man with years of experience, this was a trip he would probably never forget for the rest of his life. After hours of trekking through murky waters and dense marsh reeds, Hamilton finally came face to face with a massive alligator measuring nearly 13 feet long and weighing about 750 pounds. Its size alone was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. A gigantic creature with armor-like skin, razor-sharp teeth, and an incredibly powerful bite lurking beneath the dark waters of the Mississippi swamp. With just a single snap of its jaws, it could crush almost anything. But in the end, Hamilton successfully brought it down. After the hunt, John Hamilton took the alligator to a processing company called Red Antler Processing. Normally, hunters only keep the meat and skin, but Hamilton made a rather unusual request. He wanted the alligator's stomach to be cut open as well. The reason was simple. Earlier, Hamilton had heard a strange story about a dog tag being discovered inside the stomach of another alligator in South Carolina. That story made him curious about whether the swamp monster he had captured might also have swallowed something unusual. And then the unbelievable happened. While examining the stomach, employees at Red Antler Processing discovered two strange objects buried deep inside the massive reptile. At first glance, they looked like nothing more than worthless old stones. But after experts examined them, they quickly realized these were far from ordinary objects. James Starnes, Director of Geology and Mapping for the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, personally identified both items as Native American artifacts dating back thousands of years before Christ. One of the artifacts was an atlatl dart point dating to around 6000 BC. This type of heavy hunting weapon was once used by prehistoric hunters and ancient warriors thousands of years ago. The second artifact was a black spindle-shaped stone dating to roughly 1700 BC. What makes it even more mysterious is that its true purpose remains unknown to this day. Researchers initially believed it may have been connected to fishing or underwater hunting activities, but that is still only a theory. Even now, no one can say with certainty what ancient people actually used it for. And what makes this discovery even harder to believe is the location where the alligator was caught. The Eagle Lake area, where John Hamilton captured the reptile, lies near one of approximately 19,000 prehistoric archaeological sites that have been documented in Mississippi. This suggests that thousands of years ago, the region was once home to numerous ancient Native American communities. It's very possible that while feeding along the bottom of lakes and swamps, the alligator accidentally swallowed artifacts that had remained buried beneath layers of prehistoric mud for thousands of years. But the more people think about it, the more unsettling it becomes, because that would mean that for thousands of years, these ancient predators have silently moved through waters deeply connected to human history. Although scientists are still continuing to study the two mysterious artifacts, the discovery has already shocked many people around the world, not only because of its archaeological value, but also because it proves that alligators truly are terrifying killing machines of nature. They can swallow almost anything that appears before them, from animals and metal objects to secrets buried by ancient civilizations thousands of years ago. Pretty terrifying, isn't it? So what about you? Would you dare hunt a gigantic alligator like that? Or would you run as far away as possible the moment you spotted one lurking in the distance? Leave a comment below and let me see whether you're the kind of fearless person who's afraid of absolutely nothing. 7,000-year-old jade disc found in ancient Chinese tombs holds a secret no one can explain. Did you know that inside ancient tombs buried deep beneath the ground in China, places where darkness has lingered for thousands of years, archaeologists have repeatedly discovered a strange object placed beside the bodies of ancient nobles? These objects are circular jade discs, crafted with astonishing precision, positioned on the forehead, chest, or beneath the feet of the dead, as if they carried some kind of sacred meaning. What makes this discovery so fascinating is that although these jade discs have been found in countless ancient burial sites, scientists still cannot fully explain what they were actually created for. Even more mysterious is the question of how ancient people managed to make them in the first place. Just think about it for a moment. More than 7,000 years ago, during the Neolithic Age, long before modern machinery, advanced cutting tools, or sophisticated technology existed, humans somehow created jade discs so perfectly shaped that it almost seems impossible. Some of them were polished so smoothly that they still reflect light today, even after lying underground for thousands of years. How did they do it? It's incredibly difficult to understand, isn't it? Even modern scientists still don't have a complete answer. What researchers do know is that these mysterious jade discs have been discovered in many aristocratic tombs throughout China, especially in regions connected to the Hongshan culture, which existed from around 3,800 BC to 2,700 BC, and the Liangzhu culture, which lasted from roughly 3,000 BC to 2,000 BC. That means these artifacts may have existed as early as 5,000 BC, an incredibly ancient period in Eastern civilization. One detail that immediately caught researchers' attention was that the placement of the jade discs never appeared random. They were usually positioned at important points on the body, such as the forehead, chest, or beneath the feet of the deceased. Because of this, many experts believe the objects were tied to spiritual beliefs or ancient burial rituals. But the deeper researchers investigate, the greater the mystery becomes. As you may know, jade is an extremely rare and incredibly hard stone. It forms naturally from silicate minerals and has long been used to create valuable jewelry and sacred objects. In its pure form, jade is nearly colorless. But when exposed to certain elements like chromium, it develops the beautiful emerald green color people recognize today. Ancient people divided jade into two main categories, nephrite and jadeite, both famous for being so hard that crafting them is considered extraordinarily difficult. And that is exactly why modern scientists remain puzzled. With Neolithic technology, carving and polishing such hard stone should have been nearly impossible. Yet ancient Chinese craftsmen not only managed to shape it, but also created perfectly balanced circles with remarkably sharp and precise details. Even with modern technology, cutting and polishing jade still requires enormous amounts of time and effort. And yet thousands of years ago, humans accomplished it using only primitive tools. This has led many people to believe that the knowledge and craftsmanship of ancient civilizations may have been far more advanced than we realize today. But the greatest mystery of all is still the true purpose of these strange jade discs. One theory suggests that ancient people believed the discs could guide the souls of the dead into the heavens. That may explain why they were placed on the bodies of nobles as part of a sacred ritual, sending the soul into another world. Other researchers believe jade itself was considered a sacred material capable of protecting the body from decay over time. For thousands of years, jade has symbolized purity, power, and eternity throughout Eastern cultures. Because of this, placing jade beside the dead may have represented a desire for immortality in the afterlife. However, there is another theory that many find even more fascinating. Some experts believe the circular shape of the jade discs symbolize the sun or the wheel of time, representing the endless cycle between life and death. For the people of the ancient Liangzhu culture in China, death may not have been seen as an ending. They may have believed that human beings continued on another journey after leaving this world, and the jade disc itself may have symbolized that eternal cycle, a circle with no beginning and no end. That is why the more archaeologists study these ancient tombs, the more they realize that the spiritual world of ancient China was far more complex than anyone once imagined. These jade discs may not have been simple burial objects at all. Perhaps they were sacred ceremonial artifacts used in ancient rituals, or even keys connected to beliefs that vanished from human history thousands of years ago. And even today, as these mysteries continue to emerge from beneath the soil of China, one enormous question still remains unanswered. What message were ancient people truly trying to preserve inside these mysterious jade discs? What do you think the answer might be? Don't hesitate to leave a comment below and share your thoughts with everyone. 1,100-year-old Viking sword emerges from the bottom of an English river. The secrets of the Norse warriors slowly come to light. Hidden deep beneath the cold mud of the River Cherwell in Oxfordshire, England, an ancient weapon had rested silently for more than 1,000 years, as if history itself had forgotten it. No one knew how long it had been there. No one knew who its last owner was. But in late 2023, what seemed like an ordinary search by a fisherman unexpectedly brought an entire piece of Viking history back into the light. And what emerged from the riverbed that day left British archaeologists stunned. It was an ancient Viking sword dating from approximately 850 to 975 AD, an artifact experts described as archaeologically rare. The story began in November 2023 when Trevor Penny, a fisherman living in England, brought magnet fishing equipment to the River Cherwell in Oxfordshire in search of lost metal objects beneath the water. As many of you probably know, magnet fishing has become a popular hobby in many parts of the world. People drop extremely powerful magnets into rivers and lakes, hoping to pull up valuable items such as coins, antiques, or precious metal objects lost many years ago. But Trevor Penny probably never imagined that the trip that day would become a life-changing moment. While pulling his magnet up from the murky waters of the River Cherwell, Penny suddenly felt something extremely heavy attached beneath it. At first, he assumed it was just an old piece of scrap metal lying on the riverbed. But as the object slowly emerged from the water, the friend standing beside him suddenly exclaimed, "It looks like a sword!" In that moment, both men were nearly speechless. Before them was a long sword covered in mud and rust, yet its overall shape remained surprisingly intact despite spending centuries underwater. Trevor Penny later photographed the sword and used Google's image recognition tool to search for similar objects. The results shocked him. The weapon closely resembled swords from the Viking Age. Penny immediately reported the discovery to a local official so archaeologists could properly examine the artifact, and the final analysis confirmed it. This was indeed a genuine Viking sword. According to experts, the sword dates from around 850 to 975 AD, a period when Viking activity in England was at its peak. What makes the artifact especially rare is its remarkable condition. Specialists from the Oxford Museum explain that discovering a Viking sword with so much of its original form preserved is extraordinarily uncommon in archaeology. Normally, metal weapons buried underground or submerged underwater for hundreds of years become almost completely corroded. But the greatest mystery remains unanswered. How did this sword end up at the bottom of the River Cherwell? Did it once belong to a Viking warrior who died in battle? Or was it lost during some ancient conflict long forgotten by history? The more historians study the discovery, the more they realize it serves as extremely important evidence of Viking presence in England during the Middle Ages. More than 1,100 years ago, Viking warriors from the cold lands of Scandinavia crossed the seas aboard their famous longships and arrived in England through raids that terrified much of Europe. Historical records show that the Vikings first set foot in England in 793 AD during the brutal attack on the monastery of Lindisfarne, located off the northeastern coast of England. After that, they continued expanding their raids throughout the region. By around 835 AD, larger Viking fleets began landing along the English coastline, fighting directly against royal armies and seizing vast territories. Throughout the 10th century, English kings gradually reclaimed land from Viking control and united the territories into a new kingdom known as England, the predecessor of modern-day England. However, Viking influence continued well into the 11th century, and it was only after the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066, when King Harald III Sigurdsson of Norway was defeated by the Saxons, that the Viking Age truly came to an end. That is why the sword discovered beneath the river Cherwell is not simply an ancient weapon. It is more like a silent witness to an era filled with bloodshed and war, an object once held in the hands of a Viking warrior more than 1,000 years ago, now suddenly returning to the modern world. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? The Lost City Beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a 120,000-year-old mystery that may hold the origins of alien life. Deep beneath the dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean, where sunlight has never reached, there exists a strange world so unbelievable that even scientists once thought it belonged only in science fiction movies. Amid submerged mountain ranges on the ocean floor, gigantic stone towers rise through the darkness like the ruins of a civilization that vanished hundreds of thousands of years ago. Scientists call this place the Lost City. There are no humans living there, no streets, no palaces. But the truly terrifying part is that this place actually exists in the real world, and it may hold the greatest secret about the origin of life on Earth. The Lost City is located on the western side of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, approximately 2,300 feet beneath the ocean surface. The area was discovered in the year 2000 using remotely operated robotic vehicles designed to explore the deep sea floor. As the cold blue lights from the underwater robot pierced through the darkness of the ocean depths, researchers witnessed a bizarre scene unlike anything they had ever seen before. White and pale blue carbonate rock columns rose everywhere, resembling ancient towers abandoned since prehistoric times. Some were as small as chairs, while others were gigantic structures reaching heights of nearly 200 feet, towering like buildings within the deep abyss of the ocean. The entire area looked exactly like a city buried beneath the sea for tens of thousands of years. And what shocked scientists the most was this: the place was still alive. According to researchers, the hydrothermal system at the Lost City has remained continuously active for at least 120,000 years, and possibly much longer. Throughout that immense span of time, rocks beneath the seafloor have continuously reacted with seawater, producing hydrogen, methane, and other dissolved gases that are released into the ocean. In a place completely without sunlight, with almost no oxygen, and with water pressure strong enough to crush most life forms found on Earth's surface, life still survives in astonishing ways. Hidden within the cracks of the massive stone towers are countless strange microorganisms thriving on hydrocarbons created through chemical reactions beneath the seafloor. That means this ecosystem does not depend on sunlight or plants like life on land does. Instead, it survives using energy generated directly from the Earth itself. The hydrothermal vents continuously release hot fluids reaching temperatures of around 104 degrees Fahrenheit, creating habitats for many creatures including snails, crustaceans, crabs, shrimp, sea urchins, and even eels. Even in such an extreme environment, life continues to thrive as if challenging the very laws of nature. That is exactly why the Lost City has become one of the most extraordinary places ever discovered beneath the ocean. Scientists believe there may still be similar systems hidden somewhere else in the deep sea, but so far, this remains the only site humans have directly discovered and studied using remotely operated robots. What excites scientists most is the way hydrocarbons form in this environment. Normally, life on Earth depends on energy from the sun or carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But at the Lost City, hydrocarbons are created entirely through chemical reactions occurring beneath the ocean floor, and hydrocarbons are the fundamental building blocks of life itself. In other words, this place may reveal how the very first life on Earth emerged billions of years ago, and the implications go even further than that. Microbiologist William Brazelton from the University of Utah believes this unique ecosystem could serve as a model for extraterrestrial life. He suggests that similar environments may exist on Enceladus, one of Saturn's moons, on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, or may even have existed on ancient Mars. If life can survive in total darkness beneath Earth's deep oceans, then perhaps somewhere in the vast universe, other organisms may exist in the exact same way. What makes the Lost City especially unique is that it is completely different from ordinary underwater volcanic vents. Most underwater volcanic systems depend on molten magma and produce sulfur and iron-rich minerals. But here, the stone columns generate hydrogen and methane levels roughly 100 times higher. The carbonate rock formations in this region are also much larger than those found in most other hydrothermal systems on Earth, suggesting they have existed far longer. The largest tower in the area was named Poseidon, after the Greek god of the sea, and rises nearly 200 feet tall. Meanwhile, in the northeastern section of the site, mineral circulation has created bizarre branching formations resembling giant stone hands stretching upward from the dark ocean floor. But perhaps the most worrying part of this story is that the Lost City may now face destruction caused by humans. In 2018, Poland obtained mining rights for the deep-sea region surrounding the Lost City. Although the mining activities are not taking place directly on the hydrothermal system itself, scientists warn that even industrial waste or vibrations from nearby operations could destroy this fragile ecosystem entirely. That is why some experts are now calling for the Lost City to be added to the World Heritage List before it is too late. To some people, this discovery may not seem especially important, but when you think about it, for tens of thousands of years, the Lost City has stood as proof of the incredible endurance of life itself. And now, humanity may become the very thing that destroys it. Beef that survived for more than 2,000 years, inside an ancient Chinese tomb. Deep beneath the cold earth of Shanxi Province, China, a land that has hidden countless secrets of ancient dynasties, archaeologists, in 2010, uncovered a tomb from the Warring States period in Wanli village near the city of Xi'an. At first, no one expected the site to reveal anything particularly extraordinary because signs of grave robbers showed that most of the artifacts inside had already been disturbed long ago. But then, an old bronze cauldron hidden in the corner of the tomb caused everyone present to change expression immediately. When the heavy lid was finally opened, what appeared inside was not gold, silver, or precious jade, but pieces of ancient beef that had rested underground for thousands of years. A meal buried during the Warring States period, surviving more than 2,000 years of history, war, climate changes, and the relentless decay of time, yet somehow still leaving traces behind to this day. The discovery completely stunned Chinese archaeologists. According to experts, the tomb discovered in Xi'an, a city in Shanxi Province, China, dates back to the Warring States period, the era before the Qin dynasty unified ancient China. Although the tomb had been looted long ago, leaving many burial objects scattered or missing, the remarkable bronze cauldron fortunately remained relatively intact, and it was this very cauldron that preserved one of the strangest discoveries ever connected to ancient food. When researchers examined the inside of the vessel, they identified multiple pieces of beef that had been altered over time. Most of the meat had become carbonized, meaning it had undergone environmental changes and decomposition over thousands of years. However, what shocked everyone was that some portions still retained a relatively recognizable shape. That immediately raised a series of questions. How could beef survive for such a long time? What preservation methods did ancient people use? Or was the bronze cauldron hiding some secret we still do not fully understand? According to archaeologists, during China's Warring States period, beef was considered an extremely rare and valuable food. At that time, cattle were primarily used for farming and plowing fields, so slaughtering cows for meat was far less common than it is today. Because of that, placing beef inside a tomb strongly suggests that the tomb's owner may have been someone of very high social status. The meat was not simply food, it also symbolized wealth and power. And if you look closely at many ancient civilizations around the world, people often buried food, wine, and everyday objects with the dead because they believed the deceased would continue existing in another world. Perhaps the person buried in this tomb was also being prepared with a final meal for the journey into the afterlife. But what continues to puzzle scientists most is the extraordinary preservation of the meat itself. To explain it, experts have proposed several different theories. One theory suggests that ancient people may have dried the beef before placing it inside the bronze cauldron. Drying removes moisture from meat, limiting bacterial growth and significantly extending preservation time. That idea seems reasonable, because thousands of years ago, humans already understood methods such as air drying and smoking food to preserve it longer. But that is not the only explanation. Other researchers believe the sealed environment inside the tomb played the most important role. After burial, the tomb may have been completely sealed off, preventing outside air from entering. An oxygen-poor environment like that would dramatically slow the natural decomposition process. In addition, the bronze cauldron itself may have functioned as a kind of ancient preservation container. Copper and bronze have long been known to possess antibacterial properties and resistance to environmental damage. Because of that, it is possible that the vessel itself helped protect the meat from the destructive effects of time. Even though scientists still have not reached a final conclusion, the discovery has opened the door to many new mysteries surrounding ancient Chinese civilization, because it suggests that people more than 2,000 years ago may have possessed surprisingly advanced knowledge about food preservation. As you can see, sometimes the things that make history most fascinating are not treasures made of gold or precious jewels. Sometimes it is the smallest and most ordinary objects, like a few old pieces of beef resting inside an ancient bronze cauldron, because hidden behind them is an entire story about the daily life, beliefs, and intelligence of ancient people's secrets that slept beneath the soil of China for thousands of years. Dear viewers, in the ancient world, a time considered the most primitive in human history, there were countless mysteries that still remain undiscovered to this day. Among them were terrifying, mysterious creatures that continue to haunt people even now, ancient treasures thousands of years old, hiding enormous secret systems behind them, mysterious lost cities, centuries-old tombs, and unbelievably well-preserved mummies. All of these discoveries are mysteries so incredible that even scientists have been left astonished. So, out of all the discoveries we explored today, which one impressed you the most? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to give the Ancient History channel a like and subscribe so you won't miss any future fascinating discoveries. And for now, goodbye and see you next time.